Let's take a little wander down the road of cholesterol, because I certainly don't have the body of knowledge on cholesterol that you do. But anecdotally, as I mentioned, we didn't see a single centenarian that did not have what we would consider clinically elevated levels of LDL cholesterol. Wild. So LDL cholesterol over 99 nanograms per deciliter. And I think a lot of people don't understand that cholesterol is actually not a fuel source, right? It's a construction material, one of the main construction materials in our body. We build hormones, we build cell walls, cell membranes, we make vitamin D3, we make cholecalciferol from cholesterol. And so it's a very necessary compound, and yet it is vilified because, in my opinion, it's at the scene of the crime, but not the one pulling the trigger. And so talk a little bit about cholesterol and maybe some of the challenges and misconceptions in the medical community surrounding cholesterol.
Yeah, I think cholesterol is really the crux of so many conversations, because when humans eat more saturated fat from animals, whether it's butter, tallow, ghee, a steak, and they eat less seed oils, there is a physiologic thing that happens, that the ApoB, which is just part of, it's just a metric that sort of reflects LDL cholesterol in a little more sophisticated way. LDL/ApoB containing lipoproteins go up. And this triggers all sorts of alarm bells in medical offices across the country. And the knee-jerk reaction is, here's a statin. So let's just consider this position. Like, when humans eat a diet that is consistent, that essentially mirrors what humans have been doing, and they get rid of seed oils, and LDL cholesterol goes up a little bit, that's bad. Because, the position of Western medicine is called the response to retention hypothesis, and is essentially that there is a direct geometric relationship between the amount of ApoB containing lipoproteins in your blood and the rate at which you accumulate atherosclerosis in your veins. The more ApoB containing lipoproteins in your blood, the more you get plaque in your arteries. Except when that's not true.
Except when that's not true.
Except for the many instances when that relationship does not exist. And there are so many of these relationships out there that Western medicine ignores wildly. But here's the problem, that if you look at our population as a whole, as Westernized Americans in general, there are multiple studies suggesting that 88 to 93% of us are metabolically unwell. Some form of insulin resistance, right? Prediabetes. And that's a big number. And that's 93 to 88% have at least one metric of metabolic syndrome. And I would say that means you have some cascade beginning in your body of insulin resistance, aka metabolic dysfunction. Right. Even the American Heart Association admits that half of Americans are either pre-diabetic, undiagnosed diabetes, or diabetes. Over 150 million people, according to the American Heart Association, have some form of insulin resistance metabolic dysfunction.
Wow.
I would argue it's closer to 90%, but even the AHA claims it's over 150 million of 330 million plus Americans. And so when we have a position, when we have a context of metabolic dysfunction, yes, there is a direct geometric relationship between ApoB and atherosclerosis progression. But what if we don't have metabolic dysfunction? The relationship completely changes. It essentially goes to almost zero. There's still a very, very small relationship, but we also know that no study is perfect. There are other things in our environment that can damage the endothelium. But I think that if you argue, as Western medicine does, that ApoB is causal, right?
Right.
Because if you have more ApoB and it's not causal, what's the big deal? But it has to be causal. It has to directly injure the endothelium on the inside of blood vessels. If you argue that ApoB is causal in atherosclerosis, then why in someone that's metabolically healthy does it really not have much of a relationship between atherosclerosis, or even a very small relationship between atherosclerosis? And why in someone that's diabetic is the relationship very clear and extremely intense? Like the geometric relationship is much more, a much higher slope. So there's a discordance here in the actual philosophy around ApoB. If ApoB is truly damaging the endothelium, why is it that you have centenarians in your mortality data that all have high levels of ApoB?
Yeah.
And they're not dying of atherosclerosis. What's going on? These examples are myriad of discordances, places where ApoB levels don't seem to correlate to the progression of atherosclerosis.
Right.
And it's generally in people, men and women, who are insulin sensitive. So how can you say that ApoB is injuring the endothelium when there's clearly something else going on? And there's all sorts of other arguments. In native human biology, we don't get atherosclerosis in veins. We only get it in arteries. So you have the same amount of ApoB. It's a continuous system in your vein, as you do in an artery. But an artery is a higher pressure system with a much higher propensity to have damage to the endothelium, denuding to the endothelium.
Right.
So if you look at the literature in medicine, if you look at the literature, there are so many discordances here. And it's just so clear that if ApoB is causing the problem, why are there so many instances where it doesn't look like that's happening? And then it's clear the endothelium must be damaged for atherosclerosis to start. So what damages the endothelium?
Oxidation.
Well, oxidation, poor repair from an insulin resistance, heavy metals, toxins in our environments, right? So if you have damage to the endothelium, yes, ApoB is involved. But this is necessary but not sufficient. So if you have a component that's involved and you have a system where there is constant damage to the endothelium, like diabetes or metabolic dysfunction, is it possible that ApoB looks like more ApoB is bad, but it's not actually beginning the process, right? And then interestingly, or connected with that, what about someone that doesn't have rampant endothelial dysfunction happening? What about someone that doesn't have rampant endothelial damage? We all have a little bit, but I think in those of us that are metabolically healthy, we can repair it. We all have high pressure with bifurcations in our arteries. We're all going to get some denuding of the endothelium of our arterial walls, but I believe that we can repair it. And so this is the problem. It's just basically saying something else initiates. ApoB as a causal factor, I completely disagree with that verbiage. I think it's wrong. And I think that it is propagating a false narrative in medicine. It's incorrect philosophically to say that. And the problem then, like I said, is that people are scared of eating foods that are good for them.
Yeah.
And they're scared of eating foods. And connected with that, the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology will recommend canola oil to you because it lowers your ApoB. And they will tell you to limit saturated fat because it raises your ApoB, when we also know that there are so many populations of free living humans with huge amounts of saturated fat in their diet and high cholesterol, quote unquote, that don't have any incidence of atherosclerosis in their diets. It's just they're not eating processed foods.